Integrity is not easy, especially in a political space. They say hypocrisy is a minor sin in politics. Why? Because oftentimes people need to glad hand and they need to talk to various people with different objectives and different things that they want, and you have to somehow appease all of them. Meaning, if you are just not taking a political stance and an ideological stance of this is who I am, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm pushing for, and you take the more political opportunistic stance, yes, you're going to have multiple faces in the process. It just comes with the territory. This is why integrity, especially if you're working from a context of ideology, is a powerful, powerful thing, especially if it can be marshaled to good ends. When the public is looking at you and the public recognizes this person is authentic, this person is being real with me, this person is not bullshitting me, that conveys a certain degree of power and trust in that particular individual, even if what they're saying is wrong. Not wrong per se, but even if the public disagrees in part with what the individual is saying, the very fact that they believe what that person is saying is legitimate, it gives them credibility. Many politicians lose that credibility. That may be people on their wavelength, but oftentimes what happens is that the people who are on the politician's wavelength ignore those hypocrisies. And in ignoring those hypocrisies, become somewhat tarnished themselves in the context of looking at things through the lens of a particular political party. The right wing doesn't ignore it. Meaning the right wing sees those fuck-ups. They see the hypocrisy and they point to that particular hypocrisy, in which case there's a fight back and forth over something that this particular politician did. Same thing happens on the right. Now, standing outside the political space, you look at both and you think, both of them do this. This is not something that's one or the other. This is, again, both. These are two wings of the same party. In this very specific case, you have a Democrat who, during the Ford hearings with the Supreme Court pick, she said, I believe women. I believe Ford. Ford is, she's the person. I believe Ford was sexually assaulted. Now, fast forward. Beyond the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, fast forward, right now, Joe Biden accused of a violent sexual assault. Now, in Joe Biden being accused of this violent sexual assault, you would think that because she was so for pro-women at the time, that she was so on board to, we got to believe women. It is important that we believe women. When women come forward, we need to believe women because they're not going to come forward for no reason. We need to believe women. And I, for one, Alyssa Milano, am standing here beside Ford. I believe her. Fuck everybody else who doesn't. I believe her. I believe women. Fair enough. Fair enough. What about Tara Reid? Do you believe Tara Reid? Tara Reid is a woman. Tara Reid had certain expectations and everything else. She didn't necessarily want to be sexually assaulted. And it just so happened that the person who Alyssa Milano is backing and supporting is one Joe Biden. Now, what is she going to do in this process? You've already given your political identity and political ideology and where you stand based on the Brett Kavanaugh hearing and your responses of saying, I believe women. You're holding the sign up. What is this person going to do now? Are you going to work with integrity? And in the same way you believed women back then, you're going to believe women now? Or is there going to be something different that comes out of her mouth now that the candidate who she's backing, Joe Biden, is in the race and being accused of sexual assault, a violent sexual assault by Tara Reid? What is Alyssa Milano going to say? How does Alyssa Milano explain not backing the woman in this case and not believing this particular female who's coming up with a credible story about Joe Biden? There's a twist to this, by the way. I gave this video a downvote. I don't give downvotes often. I gave this one a downvote. I know when somebody is bullshitting me and acting entirely for political reasons. If you believed women in general, then you would believe this one. And it would bother you and plague you that the person who you are backing and supporting was accused of a violent sexual assault. Shame on you, Alyssa Milano. Let's hear your excuses for why you're backing somebody being accused of a violent sexual assault in the exact same way that Brett Kavanaugh was accused of a violent sexual assault. You believed her. You don't believe this one. Explain why.
I think. So I endorsed Joe Biden.
Okay, good.
And there have been accusations against Joe about a sexual assault.
Right, and people were saying, "How can you do that?" Because you're.
I have not publicly said anything about this. If you remember, it kind of took me a long time to publicly say anything about Harvey as well, because I believe that even though we should believe women, and that is an important thing, and what that statement really means is
a butt's coming in. A butt's coming in. You know, when she said, "I know we should believe women," the language itself, just where the flow and momentum of the language, I guarantee you there will be a but here. Let's keep going.
Is like, for so long the go-to has been not to believe them. So really we have to sort of societally change that mindset to believing women, but that does not mean at the expense of not giving men their due process and investigating situations.
I like that.
And giving, it's got to be fair in both directions.
Okay.
So, I've been very vocal about Biden and my support for him. I've known him for a long time, and I did do my due diligence because part of it was that, and the article that sort of stood out to me was that Time's Up decided not to take the case. And so,
that was important to you. That meant, well, maybe there's more to this story here.
Right. I did my work, and I spoke to Time's Up, and I just don't feel comfortable throwing away a decent man that I've known for 15 years.
Yep.
In this time of complete chaos without there being a thorough investigation.
Yep.
I'm sure that mainstream media would be jumping all over this.
Think about what she's saying here. Time's Up was an organization that was supposed to assist women who were raped or sexually assaulted. Tara Reid went to Time's Up, and Time's Up refused to accept her case. She went to multiple lawyers, and basically Joe Biden was a giant in Capitol Hill, and they didn't want to get into what they consider to be political process. Now, Alyssa Milano is making the point that, look, Time's Up didn't take the case, so maybe it wasn't necessarily a legit case. Yes, we suppose believe women, but, Time's Up didn't take the case. And then mainstream media will be jumping all over this case if this case wasn't legitimate. As if mainstream media doesn't have its own political objectives and aspirations. The light touch that they've gave infantile Joe Biden is utterly astonishing. Go look at the interviews that they do with Joe Biden and compare those interviews that they do to Sanders. They have to lead Joe Biden along precious and gently as if he's a child. Whereas Sanders, they're asking actually questions because he's an adult that can answer those questions. I guess I'm making the very basic point that media has a perspective and has a point of view, and they do have particular people who they like versus people who they don't particularly like. And the way they treat some versus others is a political disposition and a political opinion, and to some degree maybe even be an opinion about cash and what they want to go with. Tara Reid came up and said she was sexually assaulted by Joe Biden. There is no reason to disbelieve her story. I give her the benefit of the doubt, even though I don't necessarily condemn Joe Biden. My issue here is that Alyssa Milano did not give this level of skepticism to Brett Kavanaugh at all. Go back and look at those hearings. This level of skepticism, exact same situation. Joe Biden sexually assaulted somebody, accused. Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted somebody, accused. Alyssa Milano, I believe women. I believe women. Unless they're Democrats that I just so happen to have a fiduciary relationship with. Shame on you. Shame on you. And by the way, if you're looking for mainstream media to help cover the story, mainstream media has started to cover this story.
and to the Liz Warren campaign and told them about these allegations, and they got blown off. Those two senators didn't want anything to do with it. And these senators had said for many, many years that they wanted to do everything they could to help women in these situations, but in this case, they didn't. I just wonder what the difference is.
The difference is political party. They just don't police their own. Ralph Northam is still governor of Virginia. Why should he be? The man admitted that he wore blackface and, he did things that would be considered utterly beyond racist. That's what we're dealing with, Jesse. It's just not a same set of rules.
Mainstream media is picking it up. What's your excuse? Mainstream media is picking the story up. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy here. Alyssa Milano, I believe women. Brett Kavanaugh is guilty. Joe Biden, fiduciary relationship. I believe women, but never forget what her co-star made her point, if I can find it, Rose McGowan. Okay, maybe I don't have that. Well, Rose McGowan gave a scathing interview of Alyssa Milano, and it was utterly brutal. I'm trying to find it so I can pull it up, but basically she was saying that woman's a lie. And she goes in and starts listing all of the organizations that she's affiliated with. And by the way, Alyssa Milano has done this once before. When the accusation came up about Joe Biden smelling Rosa Flores's hair and touching her inappropriately, again, Milano comes out, I believe women, but we need to make a distinction between a violent sexual assault versus inappropriate touching. She did, I shit you not. And now that this has come up, where her guy that she is backing has been accused of a violent rape, her response is, I believe women, but the organization, Time's Up, that I'm affiliated with, didn't take this case. And because it didn't take this case, I don't necessarily believe her. That's astonishing. Utterly astonishing. And by the way, entirely political. This has everything to do with her affiliation with Joe Biden. This has nothing to do with the reality of things. This accusation should be devastating and at the very least discussed, and mainstream media has tried to effectively block this out. Fox News plays it for obvious reasons, but the catch becomes, does this start to catch on where other media outlets realize that Joe Biden is being accused of a violent sexual assault? I just find it utterly astonishing that mainstream media blocks this out in this way. So CNN and MSNBC decides, yeah, we're not going to cover that. Imagine that. If somebody came forward and said Donald Trump raped them or Bernie Sanders raped him, do you believe that they would be hiding that from the public? Or do you believe they would be blasting it out on every airwaves? I'm telling you, it's the latter. All right, I can't find this clip, so I'm going to end it here. The catch is that she's affiliated with Time's Up, and there's another organization called CAA that she's affiliated with. And the argument that Rose McGowan was making was this was effectively the reason why she takes this political or this particular disposition regarding rape. That's not true. The Rose McGowan clip came earlier. Give me 1 second. I don't want to leave without finding it because the clip is awesome. And it makes a point about her affiliations better than I can. Let's see. Come on. Okay, I can't find the clip. All right, since I can't find the clip, I am going to let's see, this. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. It's like I had a very specific thing in mind. Here we are. All right. Rose McGowan,
helping me.
part of Charmed. I used to actually like that show. It was bubblegum. I like it when it was a bit darker. But nevertheless, Charmed. Knows Alyssa Milano. Listen to what she says. This was said a few years ago.
To go viral. So, your former Charmed co-star, Alyssa Milano, gets a lot of credit for helping Me Too go viral. So, are you proud of her?
I don't like her
Why?
because I think she's a lie.
Why?
Do you think I don't know these people? I'm not looking at this from the outside. I have a lot of experience. I know she's married to a CIA agent. Do the math. Who's behind Time's Up? CIA. Where do they meet? CIA. Who needs good PR? CIA. Who are part of the pimp problem? CIA.
These are very powerful people you're talking about.
They are. So am I.
That is brutal. That is really brutal. I don't know what bad blood went on between them two, but that was brutal. I guess the basic point that I'm making here is Alyssa Milano has certain political and entanglements that would always incentivize her to take a certain political disposition, especially in the case of Joe Biden, considering she has had dinners for him, or at the very least fundraisers for him. And as she said, she's had a relationship with him going back for a while. So the Believe Women thing apparently really only applies to Republicans, not necessarily Democrats, especially Democrats that Alyssa Milano has associations with. She basically found a nonsensical reason in order to say, I don't believe this particular woman. Time's up. Just pay attention to this and be aware when in the future a Republican gets accused of rape and Alyssa Milano is going to be Johnny on the spot once again. That guy did it. I believe the woman once again. I believe the woman once again. That's where we're at. Bruce Guillotine 2020 removed hashtag MeToo from her Twitter bio after the blowback. No way, no way, no way. That's brutal. If you have to do that, that's so sad. That's so sad. Oh, that's so sad. Integrity is so expensive. Integrity is so expensive. I'll leave it here. Like, share, subscribe.